This is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. Right here is from over 2,000 years ago. All I can say is this is absolutely amazing.
That you can think of is all here. Every piece of our history is here. It's mind-blowing.
So this is when I started falling in love with the UK. The opportunities and the possibilities and the history that was there was just unbelievable. I'd never seen anything like it before in my life. And we almost didn't go. This was kind of the same day that we was going towards, like, we went to Harrods and stuff, and we wasn't really allowed to film anywhere, so we just kind of walked out of Harrods and we was like, where do we go now?
Yeah.
And I was like, there's a museum over there. Let's go look at the museum. And I didn't know what museum it was. I didn't know anything, but it was the British Museum. And you'll probably see this if you're going to England, or you're probably aware of it if you're from the UK, of what the British Museum is. If you're unfamiliar with the British Museum, it's a museum of human history. It's been there since 1753. So it's been a museum probably that, you know, our founding fathers walked through at some point, you know, of our country. But this is when I truly just fell in love with this. I am Rich.
And I'm Tiffany.
And we want to talk about the British Museum, which is the most magnificent thing I have seen in my life.
So we're at the British History Museum, or the British Museum, or the British History Museum. I don't know what it's called per se. I think it's just the British Museum, but there's supposed to be a mummy inside here, and by the grace of God, a bathroom. Yeah. I have not found a bathroom in hours. I've been holding this for hours. But we're gonna go in here, and there's a mummy and other cool exhibits. It's free entry, my favorite type. So we're gonna go in here. I don't know if we can record in here or not. Today's been the day of no recording anywhere. So we're gonna go in here and try to see what we can see.
So after walking into this grand entrance and just desperately trying to find a bathroom, once we was relieved, we could kind of take in what exactly we was looking at. So when you first walk into the British Museum, you're greeted by these grand statues. And before we go any further, this is not, if you're wanting to learn the history of this, we are not the people.
No.
I am like a 5-year-old who knew what he was looking at was important, but had very limited information about what he did, and we seen mummies.
I pretty much knew nothing and asked him a bunch of questions.
Yeah, so picture, okay, we're out of the bathroom, so we walk out, and I turn a corner. I see this big figurehead looking, and I'm messing with the camera, looking at this, waiting on Tiffany to come out of the bathroom. And then I turn the corner, and I just see all these people gathered around this section, and they're like, what are you looking at? And they're like, oh, it's the Rosetta Stone. And I'm like the real Rosetta Stone? Are you serious? Like, there's the real freaking Rosetta Stone sitting right here. If you're not familiar with the Rosetta Stone, it's a key, and it's the reason, and I get chills thinking about all this stuff. I really do. I've told my family so many times coming home. It's the reason that we understand ancient Egyptian. It was ancient Egyptian. These might as well have been pictures on all these artifacts and stuff. And let me stop right here. I understand. I'm well aware of the controversies that go around this museum now, but we are YouTubers from Florida. You can write all you want down in the comment sections. We're talking about what's there, not what could or should or your opinion should be. So I appreciate your movement, but that's not what we're talking about, unless somebody from Parliament or something says, we're just gonna take the advice from one random comment on a random small YouTube channel, your words is not going to mean anything. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just, we know it. There's nothing we can do about it. And I am just talking about being able to experience it while it's there. So getting back to the story. The Rosetta Stone was the key to the ancient Egyptian world. It was the key that we could understand these stories because it had Egyptian and it had a couple of other languages on it. Like I said, very basic description, but it was all the same thing written on that stone. So it was a key for us to understand hieroglyphs. So now I'm like blown away. Like, where are we at?
How could somebody build that big?
Because they thought, I don't know.
This is overwhelming.
This is very overwhelming. Look at this hand. This is an arm. This is a limestone fragment of the Sphinx. You're talking about, Tiffany, this is 2686 BC. This right here is from over 2,000 years ago. No way, that's a real sarcophagus. It's just this. I mean, this is. I don't know what to say about this. I don't know what to say about this. You know, this is history before history. You know.
Yeah.
These are the guys who started writing it down. We all write everything down and just keep digitally. These guys invented the paper to start. Look at this, guys. We've seen the Rosetta Stone. We've seen what gave us the option to. I don't know. This is just, I'm not smart enough to tell you what everything that this is and what it ain't. And, you know, I'm sure there's channels on here that you can check out. This is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life.
You're in what you have learned about as a kid of these ancient Egyptian sculptures, and you see pictures of them in our history books, and you see, you know, in movies, like we watch The Mummy, and then all of a sudden the real ones is right there in front of you, and it's not just like there, it's just there in front of you, and you're not just looking at it, you're getting a grasp of scale.
Yeah. When I first seen those, I was freaking out. Like, I had no idea like that I would ever see that in real life in person like before. So that was like amazing. It's like you really did like, you know, like people should be able to take school trips there from
other
countries. Like I think it would be amazing to like do that because that's all I ever expected to see was a picture in a history book. And seeing it in person was mind-blowing.
When I walked in there and I started looking around, and we'll get to another section that we looked at later, but when I started looking around, like I did not know what to think. My brain started fizzing. My brain genuinely started fizzing because I'm like, okay, like this is not like, this is it. This is what we like want, this is what we've learned about, right? So we walked around this corner and showed all these shoes and like design stuff, right? Of just amazing things, like just ancient Egyptian. So now you're looking at toys from ancient Egypt.
Yeah. That was so cool, wasn't it? Like the whole thing was just so cool, like to see all these things that you've learned about in person and like real scale to size, like the real things. It was just really cool.
And then you round the corner and you're face to face with the mummy.
Yeah.
Like an actual mummy. And you're just like, Like, this is what, like, I'll say like this, with the UK. Thank you for whatever the American school system taught me about this stuff. I don't know how much, because I don't know how much I paid attention, but thank you, United Kingdom, for letting me experience this stuff. Because when we were face to face with our first mummy, first of all, the first mummy we seen was Cleopatra, which is kind of embarrassing because
This mummy says Cleopatra, and I don't know if this is the Cleopatra, or just a mummy called Cleopatra. If this is Cleopatra, that's insane. Is it that Cleopatra that we're looking at?
I don't know.
Because I feel like it would say so much more about that Cleopatra.
I'm a little bit skeptical.
Different one.
It'd have to be a different
Similar
Cleopatra. Yeah. This is Cleopatra's third cousin.
so luckily I found somebody who worked there.
That's not the Cleopatra, right?
Okay. And he was kind of telling me some of the stuff about the mummies. And like that thing that we talked about earlier was kind of like in the back of my mind. And he was like, no mummies in there was pharaohs or was of any importance. And yeah, you're right. If it was Cleopatra, there would be a whole section. But it's not going to be Cleopatra because no pharaohs is outside of Egypt. All the pharaoh mummies are in a museum in Egypt. So these are just like important people of Egypt.
Yeah.
Like they're not pharaohs though, right? And then he told me none of them was from grave robbing besides one. And it was only stole, and it was not stole by the British. It was stole by the Americans. So that was awkward.
Yeah.
But it was mind-blowing. You're sitting here looking at mummies in all different faces. You're looking at their sarcophagus, their coffins, all that stuff, and you're just looking at it. And I'm just sitting there like, everything I've ever learned as a child. And do you think that was like the peak? Do you think that? No. Mm-mm. It continually got better.
This is a naturally preserved man found in Egypt from the high heat. His teeth and everything still intact. And they got to keep it at a perfect temperature. He's 5,500 years old. That man is that man was there that man was buried there 3,000 years, 3,500 years before Jesus walked the earth.
Now, I'm a history guy, but I'm not a history guy like that. But you don't have to be a history guy to walk in and see a mummy.
Yeah. I'm not that into history. I've actually recently became a lot more interested due to the UK. But just seeing all of that actually sparked like something in me to be like, wow, yeah, like history actually really is cool and very, very interesting.
Yeah, and so like we were around the corner. So this ain't a museum. Like you're going to a museum here in America. We have like the Smithsonian, and I'm not going to take away from it. It's got a lot of amazing things. We got the Hope Diamond and stuff, but just something about this. This was a museum of humanity. This museum was about us, like what I'm about to tell you next. Like now we're kind of walking back, and now I see all these statues, and they're so weird looking. They're not like out of the... And I'm like, what are these? Are Assyrian statues. And the Assyrians, you're seeing pictures of Nimrod, or you're seeing statues of Nimrod, right? And I'm sitting there rattling my mind, like, what is this? And then I started really thinking to myself, I was like, what is this? And somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm like the Epic of Gilgamesh. Now, if you've never heard of the Epic of Gilgamesh, which there's a portion of the Epic of Gilgamesh there. So here's what you think. Like, this is what blows my mind about this museum, right? This is not, everything that is today was inspired by that. So that person that carved that statue, the new thing to them was kind of telling stories that wasn't really true. That what we look at as like stories, right? That we look like at stories, right? That was just like Harry Potter or The Hobbit. That was a new invention then, to do that and write it down, which was the Epic of Gilgamesh, which was the first story that we have ever found on this planet written down, and it's on tablets. One of those tablets is there at the British Museum. So you're looking at this, and you're looking at the start of not every person. You go back to the Egyptian room, and you're seeing a person laying down, right? Just laying down in a thing. And what was the new invention going on around when that guy was rocking? Paper.
Yeah.
So you know when authors look up and say, oh, I was inspired by this person, I was inspired by this person. No, the fact that you had a story to tell and that you wrote it on paper, these were the people you was inspired by. And that's mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. That's so mind-blowing to walk around this place and see that. And then you walk in and you see all these Greek sculptures.
Yeah, those were really cool. And some of them were so huge, like...
That was the Parthenon. That was the top of the Parthenon.
Yeah,
You're like, there's
yeah.
no way somebody could put that at the top of a temple when the people's bigger than I am.
Yeah, it was like insane how big it was. And it was crazy like how detailed everything really was. Like you've seen pictures of that kind of stuff before, but to see it in person and realize like it really is that detailed and that large was like mind-blowing.
Now, keep in mind in this part, I forgot to turn our microphones back on because we took a small break and before we went into to the parts of the Greek part, and we turned our microphones off. And I was just so chomping at the bit to get back there just to see this stuff, right? So you walk in and you're looking at pieces of the Parthenon up top right there, and you're seeing Venus, and you're seeing these things that are not small. They're completely wrapped around the room. It's telling a story of people fighting. And they're not fighting normal things. These are God fights. And you walk up and they're smooth and they're made of marble and there's kind of dudes junk hanging out and stuff. But you look at this, right? I'm going to tell you why this is like just like mind-blowing. Is you look at this and you're walking up and you're looking at these things and you realize that these things was not just created by people from a long time ago, but this was created through people with conviction of this stuff. Like we went up in this small section and you're seeing this story of the birth of Zeus or the birth, and that's on the corner and what fills in Athena's temple or whatever. And I might be getting that wrong, but these people who were building that was every bit as real to them. So you're looking at this plaque of this man fighting a centaur, and I'm sure the man was important. It was probably, I don't want to say it was Hercules, because wouldn't that be the most American thing on the planet, just to assume everything's Hercules? But they're fighting. But whoever carved that stone, that was real to them.
Yeah.
And then we take it from our Christian perspective. And the people that we read about in the Bible, the Greeks that we read about in the Bible, when they was talking about Greece, these were the things that was surrounding them. This was their normal day to day. And it just made everything seem so much more real.
Yeah.
It made, see, like if you tell me Zeus and Hercules, and my mind automatically goes back to like the Disney movies.
Yeah.
It does.
I thought that's what he was going to say, because that's what where my mind goes.
Same thing with the Egyptians. It goes back to the mummies, right? And you're sitting there looking at these these Greek stones and you're looking and you're like, okay, these was people. This is everything that I know today was started by these people, because this isn't just history in this museum. This is by the empires that shaped the earth to go into the direction that you're going. That's what you're looking at in this museum. Small things. The fact you write on paper.
Yeah.
Thank the Egyptians. The fact that you read a story. You know, thank the Assyrians. My feet are killing me, but I can walk around here every day. We're now in the European section. And there's Assyrian, there's Iran, Egyptian, Roman. Everything that you could think of is all here. Every piece of our history is here. It's mind-blowing. This is the mosaic image of Christ from the 4th century. This is during, I'm guessing, the Roman Britain. You know, Britain actually got its name from the Roman. It's originally pertaining. It's a Roman word, and then it transformed into Roman. You know how delicate this gold is, so thin. It's from the 4th century. It's a statue of Venus. So this was still considered pagan religions when they invaded. So there was a cult following. They found these statues of the Roman gods because there was still a cult following in England. And so there was people in England who believed in the Roman gods. Mm-hmm. And they find stuff like that here in England because they brought that over. Mm-hmm. So he would say it was like the old religion to the Romans at that time. I genuinely, my mind was blown from this place. I think it was one of the coolest experiences on the planet.
I thought it was really, really cool. And the thing that just shocks me the most is I never expected in life to ever see a mummy.
No.
Or to see any of that. I didn't know, where you would go to find that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, we just happened to walk in there and find mummies. To me, it was mind-blowing.
Everything is great here, and I don't mean everything is wonderful. I mean everything is great. As far as compared to what we normally see in America, but this one kind of played on me a little bit emotionally because, listen, I'm not a history buff. I am, for certain things. I'm gonna hold this out because I really want you guys to hear this. I'm not a history buff. On certain things, Civil War, Revolutionary War, I like it, but the other stuff was just out of reach. So you hear about Mesopotamia, you hear about Egypt, and you hear about Greek things, and you hear, Plato's and all these things, and you hear about the Venus, and we know all the Greek gods, and we know the Roman god, and we know that the Roman god that's contrary to Hermes is called Nike. We use these terms, but this was the first time that I ever felt connected or to be a part of that history. I know this sounds stupid, but picture you got Plato's and you got to see his mailbox. You got to see the time and effort that these people took to put these engravings into stone to build this stuff that's lasted
to take care of their dead, to preserve them according to their beliefs. Because not only is this our history, but this is our history with conviction.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm not condoning anything. I'm just saying what I've seen. I am happy that I don't have to go to each one of these countries, and that's a convenience for me, which is not, whatever. That should not play a bigger part only to me. But that idea that we got to see it is something that I'm never going to forget. It's free to go in. And I feel like you're probably going to get more from this than you're going to get anywhere else, because this is not the history of you. This is the history of every one of us. I was telling Tiffany in there, it's like the world's a TV show, and this museum is like, this is clips of what you missed so far.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other exhibits. There's the Islam exhibit that goes through stuff about Islam, and you're seeing tastes and different little things and snippets of Europe, and this place, if you even like history just a little bit, this place will blow you away. It really will. This place is...
Or if you just want to see a mummy.
Or if you just... Well, to be fair, that's what I walked in there. I just wanted to see a mummy.
That's what I went into.
I wasn't expecting to have some type of emotional reaction to this, and just feeling... people tell you that when you come to this country, like when you start going to other countries, the world gets smaller.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like, is the world got smaller, and the people that I seen became more relatable, because them carvers and chiseled into stone, how much conviction and how much belief did you have in Zeus to spend your time carving his image, and not just a little single image. These things were stone monuments that took generations to create.
The whole lifetime.
Egypt, they started certain things in Egypt, and it didn't stop being built till 500-600 years later.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, guys. This is a place you got to check out. This has been my favorite so far. 100%, 10 out of 10, 20 out of 10 would recommend. This was amazing. I loved it. That's it. I need to go sit down.
More information down below on the British Museum. I'm Rich.
And I'm Tiffany.
And that was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.